Hi. Hey, Danielle.
Yep, I'm here.
Well, thanks so much. We've connected on Season to Scale, which is right around the corner.
Yes,
And, looking at your Instagram, you are really unlocking transformation for so many women that are out there. What really sparked your journey to help all these women kind of move past some of their blockages?
that's a great question, and thank you for asking that, not answering that. I will be answering it. But no, what really sparked this was my own transformation, and that's something that I think that makes me different as a coach is that I have been in the shoes of my client. I had to literally change everything in my life, which was my career, friendships, everything to get to where I'm at today. It wasn't easy. And I actually, for those of you who don't know, the programs that I've built for my clients, I've done all that work too. It's not coming from ChatGPT. It's not coming from, it's, I have literally gone through each step and each phase to turn out, what I feel like is kind of like whole living and really living with alignment of what your soul and what you've been put on this earth to do. I like to take people out of survival mode because I feel like we were just talking about this before this. We're all kind of in this system that's just like, yep, like clock in, clock out, do this, do that. But are we choosing that? Are we
Yeah.
living with intention? Are we making conscious choices? And I'll be honest with you, I lived like that for most of my adult life until I woke up one day and I was like, or actually, survival mode forced me to have a very bad mental episode where I was depressed, I was having panic attacks, I wasn't sleeping, and that's what that my body literally told me, you can't do this anymore. So I
Yeah.
was forced to change and then of course built this, build the steps and built the resilience, but my goal for my clients is that you never get to that point of breakdown. Nobody should ever be breaking down or their body or their nervous system shouldn't be so dysregulated that
Yeah.
you're at that point. So my goal is to get people before that point, work with them so then they can live their really fulfilling life. And really when like my goal is if you are on your deathbed, not to say I want people to be on their deathbeds, but that you're like you look back at your life and you're like, wow, like I really lived a rich life.
What a beautiful gift in a backwards way to spark that ignition to leaving a legacy and an impact that you're doing. When you were going through your journey, what was one constant that kept you through? Because it's easy to get pulled back into that mind state of the rut in the system, like you
Mhm.
said. So, what was your universal truth that kept pushing you through?
Love that question. So I guess my universal truth was that I would say I'm very lucky and I'm one of the few people that I have a calling. It's a purpose. I'm meant to coach others. I'm meant to help others. It's what's leading me to go back to school to also be a therapist. I have just been put on this earth to help others. And that's what guided me throughout all of this. I'm like, and I know the whole, metaphor of the airplane and the air mask you have to put on yourself
That's
before you
right.
can put it on others. And that was my life taught me that. Like, I need to be the best version of Danielle so I can help people bring out the best in themselves. And
Yeah.
that's all I want for the clients that I work with is for them to feel their best. Even days when they're not having their best days, I remind them that you're doing the best you can. And
That's
that's
right.
why I think we live in a world too that especially in our society that's very, very I guess we're overwhelmed by just that's striving for success and being so successful that we have to realize and take a step back some days and be like, you've never been given this day before in your
That's
life.
right.
It's the first, every day of your life is the first day,
Mhm.
and you're just doing the best you can.
Yeah, I love the energy that you bring and that
Thank
magnetism.
you.
It's not surprising how many clients are just attracted to you. What would you say is like a top misconception that people have about coaching in general?
I would say that a top misconception, and we were kind of talking about this before the call, is that I don't need it.
Yeah,
And that, why do I need a coach? Why do I want, I don't need help. I don't, let me tell you, everybody needs help. I have a business coach. I have a therapist. there's a team, literally there's a team around me to help me build my business and build my life to be the way it is now. And I will say when I was, to just a little caveat, when I was in that state of dysregulation, I worked very alongside with my therapist one-on-one, very, very intensely. So in order to move forward and live your, kind of unlock your potential, I personally feel like the work that we do as coaches is so powerful. And I feel like, and sometimes you have blind spots, and
Yeah,
that's what it's really showed me coaching, having coaches myself, is that you're always gonna, when if you're just working alone, you're always gonna have a blind spot, and it's nice to have that other person's perspective.
that's amazing. I love that. When
Yeah.
you think about the coaching programs that you offer, can you distill down maybe the top three core things that people get when they work with you?
Absolutely. So top three, inner peace. I always say, happiness and all that stuff is fleeting. I really work with you to like regulate yourself so that like you can pretty much navigate life, because like life's gonna throw stuff at you. Let's be real.
Mhm.
It's, we're humans. But to really maintain that inner peace, I also do a lot of work with my clients on their worth and self-worth and self-love, because, you're your most valuable asset that you have. And then also, just being seen, and what I like to call shining is, being so comfortable and confident with your core self that you want to be seen in this world, and you want to, leave your legacy on
I
an
love that.
imprint on the world.
Amazing. How do you stay balanced in
Ooh,
a world
question.
that pulls and tugs at you and challenges this new level of transformation you've gotten to and tries to, subconsciously pull you back in? How do you
Great
still
question.
toe that line of being human and going through the feels? Like you said, one way is having coaches around you, but what are some other ways that unlock the Danielle to be the best she can be?
So I'm a big believer in just like micro moments. And what I mean by micro moments is just like, if you're having a rough day or something, life's throwing a lot of stuff at you, if you literally take just a minute, for me, grounding techniques work really well, like deep breathing or just going for a walk, being out in nature. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could
Mhm.
be, just having some alone time, maybe just reading a couple pages of a book, just taking little breaks in between to do things that make your body, your mind, your soul, your nervous system regulated. For me too, environment has a big play in that. I'm like to be by the water, so when I was choosing a place to live, I said I need to be by a beach,
Right.
because literally that's a mental health requirement for me. I know some
Yeah,
people think that's
absolutely.
a lavish thing, but for me, I know that I feel my most best self, my most balanced self when I'm by the water, and I was lucky enough to build a life that I was able to do that. So being aware of your environment, but I also too, lastly, and touching on that, I think it's just knowing yourself and having that awareness,
Yeah.
because I can tell done so much work on myself that I know my feelings, and when I'm in a state of overwhelm, I know the, couple things I can do that they'll put a band-aid on it, but then, then really taking the time later to balance and do more, deeper work.
Yeah, and I love what you said. Those are some of the hugest gifts of this season, season to scale, of self-awareness and self-regulation. And until you've
Absolutely.
actually reached it, you can't actually crystallize what that really means and what that feeling feels like. But when you are unmoved by what's happening and you have a spark against, things that are happening to you, but you don't let them have control over your emotions and most
Mhm.
importantly, your output and how you're seen and you stay resilient to them, that is the best gift that you can give yourself and doubling down on that.
Absolutely. I would wholeheartedly agree with you that like life is gonna happen either way. As I keep saying, most of us are adults and human beings. Life is gonna happen, and it's gonna throw different stuff at us either way. And I want to just also clarify for everybody, it's not about going through life without feelings or
Yeah,
processing your emotions. Process them. Like, please do. But you want to get to a point where your processing and your reaction is different than a response. And
exactly.
you can take that, your reaction, and that can be your personal processing. and then how you then respond and act in the world is very different. So I always say, the real flex in life. Actually, I was just posting on Instagram about this morning. Like the real flex in life for me, I'm like, is having a regulated nervous system. Because you can tell very easily if you're dysregulated on how you react or respond.
No, it's so true. Feel the feels, and
Mm-hmm.
your truth is your truth. So no one can tell you differently. But I think
Absolutely.
sitting in it, mulling in it, and making that indecision to not move past it is really where that deconstruction of your self value starts to take a tumble in many ways. But what you said really holds you to the vision that you set out to be and pushing through those obstacles.
Absolutely. And Melissa, too, I'd like to switch. I mean, we talk a lot about my stuff. I'd like to turn the tables and ask a little bit about you because I
Sure.
know you are an executive coach and you work with a lot of successful, women, men, entrepreneurs, people in corporate America. What do you think, with working with people that kind of like strive for this greatness, what do you think kind of like the key ingredient, I guess they all have or they all work with when, for these high performers?
Yeah, the executives I work with are like me, similar too, burnt out, mission purpose misaligned, and really trying to unlock something. And my unlock something is around main character energy. So I think what a lot of people get wrong is self promotion is performative, but to me,
Mm,
main character energy is owning your story, being of service to others, and also connecting people around the right opportunities together and collectively making leadership a bigger impact than it is. I was fortunate enough to become an executive before the age of 40, and I was getting all the accolades and really rising in the ranks. And the more I sat in meetings, doing the revision of the deck for the fifth time, just for no other reason, just to do it again rather than actually making something that's going to, move the company forward and not make an impact, was really starting to be disingenuous to me. And the
mhm.
more that I had conversations with people, they felt very similar. The one thing that I always knew, though, is how to be resilient and be self advocating for myself because I felt frustrated many times that I wasn't invited to have a seat at the table. And in the beginning, my journey looked very different because I didn't have business mentors around me. So I knew I was pioneering, I knew I was entrepreneurial in many ways, and knew how to get my ideas across, but they were never received by the right people that would put me in the right position. So I always felt like I was fighting against a different club that didn't want to invite me to it. It felt very childlike in many
Yeah,
ways. And what I realized was when I started claiming that energy and when I started actually moving with intentionality, that's when all these things started to happen. So right now, my coaching is around unlocking the three C's. So curiosity, conviction, and clarity. And to get really real with what it is going to make you hop out of bed, be enthusiastic. Like you said, you're going to have some challenges along the way. Not every day is going to be great. But with that conviction, with that clarity, and with that self awareness and regulation, you're going to be able to make some monumental strides forward.
I love that. I agree with you wholeheartedly that. So I had a conversation with another business coach and he is Jesse Holmes. We did a similar exercise as what we're doing right now. And he works on with business professionals and entrepreneurs to get their clarity, flow, and leverage. And I will say, and I don't know, would love your input on this. That clarity isn't about doing more, it's actually about doing less,
That's right.
taking
And
an audit of your life.
I think sometimes, especially in boardrooms, we're posturing, right? We
Mhm.
want to seem like we get it done. And you remind me of an article I wrote for Forbes. Not every problem is yours to solve. Sometimes, especially as women, we run towards every single issue that there is because we think it's incumbent upon us.
Mhm.
And then, begrudgingly, at least for myself, I would get annoyed that I was always solving the problems. And why can't they go to somebody else? But I
Mhm.
think humbly, what I didn't realize was that it was stopping others from leading with their own light. So if I was the one
Mhm.
always showing up with the answers, how could anyone ever even attempt to solve it for themselves or want to take ownership of their own voice? So as much as I thought I was showing up as the mentor that I never had, I think I was putting too much stock in me rather than leading with the service, like I mentioned to you, of showing up for other people in a different way that says, hey, I'm here to support you, but you have everything in you to lead the charge. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to stumble. And that doesn't mean that maybe you don't even know what that starting point is, but let's work at that together. So I think in a lot of ways, as leaders, pulling back from what
Mm,
our overinvestment is and to get really clear on what we're great at and also what fulfills us and what fills everybody around us just as much to come into harmony, to be blessed with an output that has notes around everybody's specific voice.
absolutely. I would say what you described to me, and what I've been instilled in my life, and you said it when you said service, but is true servant leadership.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I think for a long time, the people that I mentored on my teams or cross departmentally, and even my clients knew I had this in me. I would get notes from people that had worked underneath me. Thank you so much. You've made such a difference in my life. And for me, it was just being what I never had.
Hmm.
And for my clients, they would always say, you have this unique opportunity of looking around the corner at things that were always in front of us that we couldn't see ourselves. And so I think I always had this calling for coaching, but I just thought it was part of my DNA to lead with service, to be that, equal partner and helping people articulate. And some people took advantage about that, along the way, taking ideas, etc. And I think now for younger people that are coming up in corporate, they're detached. They don't want to be part of the corporate life because they haven't seen anything, that is appealing about it. And I think there's a lot of things that are not appealing about corporate, but there are a lot of gifts that you can learn within yourself and skills that you can grow. I think one thing is you need to take leadership and accountability of yourself. It's nice if your organization pours into you and has all these development activities,
Mhm.
but it's also incumbent on you to get really clear on where your career is going. So they're there to help fulfill your
Absolutely.
job and your responsibilities. If they're not doing that table stakes, then yes, you have to leave, but it's really incumbent on you to understand where it is that you want to take your growth. 20 years ago, I wish I was great at building my network back then as I
Mm.
am now. I didn't get real serious about it till 5 years ago because I was afraid. As much as I believed in myself, I was afraid to open myself up for judgment to others. And 5 years since building my network, it has unlocked all this opportunity for collaborations, for speaking engagements, for writing articles for Forbes, you name it. But all my opportunities came when I showed up in that main character energy. And that's the impact that I want everybody to know. The noise around you is just the backdrop, but you are
Mm.
your own lead in your story. And until you actually believe that you're going to save yourself, regardless of any administration, regardless of any
Yeah.
environment,
Yeah.
East Coast, West Coast, none
Yes.
of that matters. You have to go and hustle and get that for your own. It's subjective. You don't have to work 24 hours a day. You don't even want to have to climb the corporate ladder, but you do have to go get what's yours.
I love that you kind of use that, like your own self-advocacy
Yeah.
as a strength, because I agree with you. And if you know, like some, I always say doors don't open sometimes unless you knock on them.
That's right.
And sometimes you have to knock, and sometimes you have to knock hard, but also too, there's always another door. I love a good metaphor, but I would just also love to know, because of your experiences working in corporate, because that I work with also too a lot of people in corporate, and we'll have a real talk right now. It is an interesting environment. I
Super.
guess what advice, or I guess would you give people that are kind of in a situation where they know that they need a change or something, but they just feel like they're stuck, and like they've been at the job for so long, and like they don't want to, of course, like you get to a certain point in your career. I totally understand, and I work with my clients too, that like, yeah, this is a huge part of your identity and you work towards this. But what kind of advice, or how do you work with your clients to kind of get out of that stuck space or that mindset?
Yeah. So one thing, one of my clients comes to mind with this, when she had kids and she was, climbing the corporate ladder, she became more and more detached with her own unique identity. And
Mm.
when we started coaching, she said, this is the first time I'm actually sitting down and getting to know myself again and falling in love with myself again. And I said to her, if time and money weren't an issue, what would you be doing? And where would you want to fulfill yourself? And she said, I never actually thought of it like that. I don't know. I thought about being a gym owner and I thought about, actually working with nonprofits and all these different things. And I've been friends with her for 10 plus years now. I'd never even known any of this stuff. And I said, wow, tell me more.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the conversation, she said, I actually feel like there's finally a light through the tunnel. And that statement in and of itself was really eye-opening for me because she didn't say light at the end of the tunnel. She is cognizantly admitting that this is a journey that she wants to go along to find herself. And I think that's the declaration that we as individuals need to make is you can feel all the signs of burnout or whatever sort of posturing or whatever terminology is cool these days to say and
Yeah.
label things in that sense. But all of it means nothing if you don't decide to take action and you don't want to go to work. And this is work. I think that's the thing
Oh,
that
yeah,
people
it
underestimate
is.
too, is they want all the answers or they don't really like the coaching aspect because it's work. But the thing is that to really have a life of fulfillment, to really know yourself, to really have that harmony that you were talking about, the financial independence, to the health and wellness, to all this stuff, you really have to live in an existence that is in tune with everything around you. Call it
Mm.
diamond mapping, right? But I had issues with alopecia. I suffer from endometriosis. I have
Wow.
vestibular migraines. All this stuff exacerbates when I'm stressed out.
Of course.
And I can blame everything, the hours that I'm putting in, the corporate structure is not great, all these different things. But at the end of the day, I am in control with how I respond, like you said. And hopefully you don't get to that point where you have these afflictions that are happening to you. But making that declaration and then beginning to do the work, surrounding yourself, not just with coaches, but people that think positively. Because I
Hmm.
think that the knee jerk reaction is you want people to get around you that validate you. And that's
100%.
fine. You can do that. Are you in a season that you want somebody to help you or validate you? And I think you need to ask that question too, because a lot of times it's normal. We're human beings. We want validation,
Of
right? And we'll
course.
get that validation
Absolutely.
50 times by asking everybody and anybody. But at some point, how you take charge is where your future unlocks. And what I like to tell people is that on the other side of fear is magic. So show
Mhm.
up, do it scared, do it with this icky feeling. It feels uncomfortable because that is when the change is going to happen.
Oh, and I love that you just said that too, because just in my own personal journey, and thank you for sharing all of that about your journey, is that no growth comes from easy. And
Yes,
no growth comes from comfort.
that's right.
And I also love that you mentioned who you surround yourselves with, because I'm big on energy. I'm big on, they actually, I don't know who these they are, but they say that you are the sum of the five people you spend the most time with. So be
That's right.
very careful about who
Mhm.
you spend your time with. And I'm not saying, of course, like not discounting familial relationships and the people that you love, but
For
as
sure.
you said, if you are trying to, and I always say this, I'm trying to build a certain life, and I'm not saying I need to only talk to entrepreneurs or I need to
That's right.
only talk to coaches, but I find that that's my tribe because these people are living a way of life that is not only validating but also relatable, and also I learn and I grow from every single coach and every single entrepreneur that I cross paths with, and it's just a very empowering community. I feel that not, and hey, if you're not in, if you find your own tribe, if it's,
That's right.
I don't know, if it's C-suite executives, because I'm sure, you being an executive, you talk a certain language when
Yeah,
you're at a C-suite. If you're just, moms, perfect example, find your tribe of
exactly.
moms that get it. Um, I think building that support network is super, super important for your journey as well, because as we keep saying, just being coaches, but you can't do it alone.
You can't do it alone. And I think the more that you stay in that corporate kerfuffle, whatever that looks like for you,
Yeah.
and you think about the annoying meeting that you're in again, the spreadsheet that you're doing again, being looked over for your performance review, say, this is the last time I will ever let anyone put this type of value on my life. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go talk to people that build
Mhm.
me up, that put me on side projects
Yeah.
that I can explore. Because maybe not everybody is fortunate to leave the corporate life. Maybe you can't do that. But if you build your network or you get involved in passion projects or you listen to new podcasts that are, bringing you into your commute in the morning, you'd be surprised how much of that stuff starts to seep into you and you
Yep.
change your mind frame. And it's not easy because
No,
as
it's
much as
not.
I listen to self-awareness podcasts and positivity and building business and all this stuff, you get down on yourself. We are our own worst critics, especially if you're a Virgo, right? But you have to get past that. And with your resiliency around your clarity and also knowing that your girls or your fam or whoever it is
Yeah.
gotcha, then
Yep.
no harm can get done from that. And I think it's also we jump to conclusions about what success looks like.
Mhm.
Success, we're taught in corporate, looks financial or titles, but you
Yep.
can have success in many other different ways. Being success can be being in this event that we're coming up to,
Mhm.
season to scale with all these other amazing 20 women that we're going to be around. Success can be putting out a book for somebody, even if it's self published. So I think some of the softer KPIs, to speak of a corporate term, are also successes and wins that we have to celebrate.
Yes, 100%. I do think that we live in a society that has, especially in America, the capitalism has really um taken a lot of our like the version of success that we think of. And
Yeah,
I'm with you that you define that. Society doesn't define it. Your family doesn't, as much as they influence it, of
that's
course.
right.
They influence it, but
Mhm.
you are the one in the driver's seat of what you deem successful and what you want in your life. And that's what I think both of us, the work that we do with our clients is to kind of get those people back in the driver's seat again,
Yeah,
of their lives. Because a lot of the people that I work with, they describe their lives as being on a hamster wheel. And I'm like, that is not life. Like, that's not, you're not living to your fullest potential. And you also hit the nail on the head with something else, and I want to bring up. About I think also too finding if you're in the corporate world because I've been there too, it's hard to navigate finding good mentors and good leaders, not just like direct or indirect,
yeah,
but like as you said, building your network. It might like like finding those people because I remember at one of my jobs that I had, the company wasn't great, but my leader was amazing.
that's
So
good.
I said I told her I would follow her like a shadow
Yeah.
wherever she went. And honestly, I would even consider if like I have my own business now. I mean it would obviously have to be a really sweetheart deal for me to for me to work for her again. But I told her when I was in that space that I was like I would just follow you wherever you went because that was the impact a good leader like her had on me as a person. And I think people like that, mentors, they, as you said, if you expand your network, they're actually easier to find than you think.
They are easier to find than you think. And I think most people, despite the news, despite corporate news, most people actually do want to help. So
Hmm.
just saying,
Hmm.
hey, I'd love to get to know you more. I've been at this company for 5 years. I actually don't know what you do outside of operations or
Yeah,
accounting or whatever
yeah.
it
Or what's
is.
on the PowerPoint slide. Yeah.
Yeah, and take it outside the four walls, go for coffee. Even my one-on-ones, I really try. It's hard because I'm in back-to-back meetings, but my one-on-ones, I want to take people outside the four
Hmm.
walls because I think it just has these subconscious connotations of the anxiety and the hustle culture, et cetera. I want to make sure that there's no distractions, phones down, and I'm pouring into you, and we're equally getting something out of this because that's where the magic happens. That's where the faces light up. That's when you're making true connection. And I think we talk a lot about authenticity, but I don't think if we were really to question ourselves sometimes, if we show up authentically. And I get it, it's very hard to take down that mask because we're all chasing something. And a lot of that goes deeper, probably why you're looking into to becoming a therapist. So you could be my therapist. But with that, a lot of these things stem from deeper roots, right? But
100%.
the more that I kept saying, no, I'm good enough, and either people are going to, be attracted to that or they're not, the more I felt uninhibited, the more excited I was for the relationships that I was building, rather than worrying about, am I cool enough to work this networking room? Am I good enough to present to the board in this sense? I was always trying to chase what other people's words are and didn't think mine were good enough.
Mhm.
And no one had told me that they weren't good enough. I had just self-imposed these things on myself. And you can't wait for the reaction that you want. You can't wait for the
Right.
applause because guess what? It may never come. So you got to
Yeah.
be your biggest fan.
As you said, you need to have that main character energy. You
Yeah.
are you are the main character in your life. You're not the audience. You're not, the I guess the supporting role. It's you yourself and you, like me, myself,
Yeah.
and I, that is leading your life. And I think that comes down to a lot of, as you mentioned, like worth work. And you mentioned, I could go on for all days about what you just said,
Same.
but I will digress because that is a whole other
We'll do a
conversation that
follow-up
we could
to this.
have, because you are 100% correct. It is normally tied to something deeper going on, and even value and worth. It's tied to, family systems, the belief systems, our society. We keep talking about this, our
Yeah.
society, living in, you said, the hustle culture.
Yeah.
America is a capitalistic free market economy. Love that we both have the opportunity to be coaches and build careers in corporate, but also too, there's a cost to that.
Yeah.
Which is that always on, always going. And when we talk about success, that I always say, like, what's the cost of that success, that, being that executive, being like, are you costing, you know what I mean? Like, is it your relationships that are, you know, kind of on the, on the chopping block, or you don't have good healthy relationships because you don't have the time, because you're pouring too much into, corporate versus your external relationships. So it's, as you said, it's a balance. And I want to validate for everybody, and I'll validate that it is not easy. This
It's not.
life in general is not easy. So we all have times of hardship and self-doubt, and I just want to kind of normalize that for everybody, because if I can't be sitting here saying, "Yep, I done it." Like, I got here I have a lot of scars. I've fallen down more times than I've gotten up, but the fact is I got up.
That's right. You're still here
So,
and you're still pushing through. I mean,
yeah.
as long as we're here, our parents blessed us to go to college, to
Hmm.
put us through things in different ways. We've all gotten here somehow, some way, through many contributing factors, regardless of what our stories are. And as long as we've got this time of life, this gift of life, it's our responsibility to make sure that we live out that life great, because so many other young people have not even made it to this stage. So why would we squander that? And if you're going to let something like a cold entity like a corporation tear you down, then that is where you need to do the inner work, because you're stronger than that. The fact that you've gotten to whatever level you're at today is a testament to that. So just keep going and just know that there's supportive people around you, coaches or not, that are willing to really lift you up, but you have to take that action and do the work just as much.
Yes, and you mentioned that earlier, and I want to highlight that this is work. I mean, when you work with us as coaches, like, yes, we're there to motivate you, support you, be there, but you are also have to have, as you said, you need to take action. And
Yeah.
I think we live, unfortunately, and I'm learning this in the mental health field, is that everybody wants a quick fix, everybody wants a magic pill. Well, guess what, everybody? If there was that and I invented it, I would not. I really like you, Melissa, but
Yeah,
I would be sitting on my island right now, sipping Mai Tais,
for
and
sure.
I would be a billionaire if I figured that
Mhm.
out. And there's no, I don't think anybody, life is too complex. Your career is too complex. We are too complex as human beings for it to be that easy. And going back to kind of my thing about growth is that, if you want an easy life, great, but if you want to grow, life is not going to be easy. You're going to
Yeah,
face a lot of challenges. You're going to be kind of pushing uphill a lot of your life. But let me tell you how you feel if you are able to, I say I'm kind of living my dream life right now and doing what I was called to do on this earth. And
great.
I always say it's like a high you can't buy. I cannot buy this kind of high off
Yeah.
of the street. And that's what the feeling I want people to have working with me or working with Melissa or when living your life because your life is here to be lived, as you said, you know?
Yeah, it's so exciting when you're taking calculated risks and when you're getting up and seeing your clients transform, when they can
Mhm.
finally speak out about something that they really feel passionate about, when they're starting to see their ideas matriculate into something and morph, and where they started is never where they actually end up, and they're taking these offshoot roads of the journey. It's so exciting to see because I think especially in corporate, you lose the opportunity a little bit to dream. And that is the
Mhm.
opportunity cost, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes you have to realize like there are corporations, so they may have regimented systems and processes because they're responsible for 200 plus people besides you. So it's not necessarily that they're malicious or that they don't see
No.
your value in that sense, but there's limitations. Some corporations are better at than others behind actually scaling opportunities and creativity for it. If you find yourself in an environment that does have it, wonderful. Congratulations, you're lucky. But
Mhm.
many don't. And so you really have to figure out what you're passionate about, what you want to explore, and realize that you don't have all the right answers. No one's expecting you to have the right answers. Just ask the questions and go
Mhm.
chase. Go chase that journey, go chase that high, and you'll never actually look back and regret it. And if we had the silver bullet, like you said, it wouldn't have taken me 20 years to get here. I would have done it a
Oh,
lot
no,
sooner.
and you're no, you and me both. Yeah, it took me 15 years to get.
Yeah.
So anybody who's listening to this and they're like, oh, and you're younger, like it takes it's a process. But I
Yeah.
always say trust the process.
Mhm.
And I mean, I loved having this conversation with you. Thank you so much for this time and sharing your insight and your wisdom. And for all of you out there, Melissa and I are going to be speaking at a business summit. We keep mentioning it. It's Season to Scale. It is December 1st to the 3rd, and it's a virtual event and it's free. I know you can access it if there's an Eventbrite page, it's on Facebook, it's on school, it's like literally
Everywhere.
everywhere. So if you look
Mhm.
it up, we'll be there. And thank you so much, Melissa, for this time today. This was
Thank you
great.
too. I really appreciated this conversation. And for all you out there, do not wait for your New
Yeah.
Year's resolution. Now is the
Mhm.
time to get on that journey. If you're waiting for your sign, this is
This
Danielle,
is
my sign
it.
of
This is
it.
it. This is your
This
thought.
is it.
Awesome. Well, hope everybody has a great morning, evening, afternoon, whatever, wherever you are in the world. And till next time.
Thanks for joining us.